Hello everyone. Hi. Hi. Ooh. No. Misclicking everything today. So this is what I got. I got this from May Creature. Look, I got my own little bonbon on the packaging. It's so cute. Little bonbon, and from May and Dex. May Creature and Dex Creature. And then we have cardboard inside. Okay. So we have this. And now we have this. My A4 bonbon sticker. Isn't it pretty? Hi May. Hi. I don't know, but maybe it has something to do with May Creature and Dex Creature. Yeah, I think it's this person. I think it's this person. I really think it has turned out very pretty. Yeah, it arrived Monday this week. Oh, hi Aldris. Hi. Welcome in. So yeah, this is gonna go on my PC and just sit there and look at me all the time. Surprise, surprise. Oh, I don't like it. I love it. It's very nice. And I also got another thing. I got a new bookmark. A little new bookmark. Isn't it cute? It's a little bonbon. Yeah. And it have a naughty backside. Look here. Naughty backside. It's nice. No. Yeah, you know me. I always have to do double. But I really like this bookmark. I think it's very pretty. So yeah. Yeah, that's not gonna work. But yeah, I think we should get into the chapter today. I can't remember how long chapter 5 is. Okay, it's a rather short chapter today, so we should be able to make it within the stream. Yeah, have a good gaming session, Eldris. And thank you for popping in. So yeah. I just think we should start today. Now that I have shown you all the great things I have gotten the last week. And I'm really happy that they turned out the way they did. It was nice. Also, I got the redeemed to work. Yay! Yay me! So now you should actually be able to hear things. I know, it's shocking. You. Chapter 5. A conspiracy unmasked. Now we had better get home ourselves, said Mary. There's something funny about all this. I see, but it must wait till we get in. They turned down the ferry lane, which was straight and well kept, and edged with large whitewashed stones. In 100 yards or so, it brought them to the river bank, where there was a broad wooden landing stage. A large flat ferry boat was moored beside it. The white bollards near the water's edge glimmered in the light of the 2 lamps on high posts. Behind them the mist in the flat fields were now above the hedges. But the water before them was dark, with only a few curling wisps, like steam among the reeds by the bank. There seemed to be less fog on the other side. Mary led the pony over a gangway onto the ferry, and the others followed. Mary then pushed slowly off with a long pole. The brandywine flowed slow and broad before them. On the other side the bank was steep, and up it a winding path climbed from the further landing. Lamps were twinkling there. Behind loomed up the Buck Hill, and out of it, through the shrouds of mist, shone many round windows, yellow and red. They were the windows of Brandy Hall, the ancient home of the brandy bucks. Long ago, Gorhindad Oldbuck, head of the Oldbuck family, one of the oldest in the Marish or indeed in the Shire, had crossed the river, which was the original boundary of the boundary of the land eastwards. He built an excavated brandy hall, changed its name to Brandybuck, and settled down to become master of what was virtually a small independent country. His family grew and grew, and after his day continued to grow, until Brandy Hall occupied the whole of the low hill, and had 3 large front doors, many side doors, and about 100 windows. The brandy box and their numerous dependents then began to borrow, and later to build, all round it. That was the origin of Buckland, a thickly inhabited strip between the river and the old forest, a sort of colony from the Shire. Its chief village was Bucklebury, clustering in the banks and slopes behind Brandy Hall. The people in the marriage were friendly with the Bucklanders, and the authority of the master of the hall, as the head of the Brandybuck family was called, was still acknowledged by the farmers between Stock and Rushy. But most of the folk of the old shire regarded the Bucklanders as peculiar, half foreigners as it were, though as a matter of fact they were not very different from the other hobbits of the Four Farthings, except in one point. They were fond of boats, and some of them could swim. Their land was originally unprotected from the east, but on that side they had built a hedge, the High Hay. It had been planted many generations ago, and was now thick and tall, for it was constantly tended. It ran all the way from Brandywine Bridge, in a big loop curving away from the river, to Haysend, where the Withywindle flowed out of the forest into Brandywine. Well, over 20 miles from end to end. But, of course, it was not a complete protection. The forest drew close to the hedge in many places. The Bucklanders kept the doors locked after dark, and that also was not usual in the Shire. The ferry boat moved slowly across the water. The Buckland shore drew near. Stan was the only member of the party who had not been over the river before. He had a strange feeling as the slow gurgling river slipped by. His old life lay behind in mists. Dark adventure lay in front. He scratched his head, and for a moment had a passing wish that Mr. Frodo could have gone on living quietly at Backend. The 4 hobbits stepped off the ferry. Mary was tying it up, and Pippin was already leading the pony up the path, when Sam, who had been looking back as if to take farewell of the Shire, said in a hoarse whisper, "Look back, Mr. Frodo. Do you see anything?" On the far stage, under the distant lamps, they could just make out a figure. It looked like a dark, black bundle left behind. But as they looked, it seemed to move and sway this way, and that as if searching the ground. It then crawled, or went crouching, back into the gloom beyond the lamps. "What in the Shire was that?" exclaimed Merry. "Something that is following us," said Frodo. "Hi, Aragorn." Come on, everyone. Join in. Come on. Now I can take the patate. Yay! How are you, Oregon? Hi. It's fine, Mr. Thorot. Have a lovely night. Just so you know, I'm a little behind on uploading the videos because of the Yeah.
And can you not do that? You'll blunt them. Ooh, do you hear that, lads? He says we'll blunt the knives. Blunt the knives, bend the forks, smash the bottles and burn the corks. Crack the glasses and crack the plates. That's the Bilbo Baggins hates. Cut the cloth, turn the mat, get the rubber to get the map. Walk the bed to the dance before. Smash the line on every door. Dot the boiling bowl, down the talking hole. When you're finished and then you go. Down the road. That's what the Baggins is. He's here.
Do I really have to put a timer on that, Mr. Thorpe? Yeah. So yeah, I fixed it yesterday. I found out what the issue was, so I wanted to fix it so it was ready for today.
So sorry I am late. It's been a busy morning.
It's completely alright, Earthling. It's been a slow night this today, so. Oh yeah. Well, at first, I got this. So this bookmark is for Census Taker. Yeah, go have a lovely night, Mr. Thorpe. And this is the other side of it. And the other one, I don't know if Miss Deathheart saw it before, but it's this. Yeah, this is the A4 sticker I ordered from Make Creature. So it's gonna be great to get this on my PC. Shibari ropes. Everything. Shibari. Have a lovely evening, Mr. Thorpe. See ya. Yeah, exactly, everything. Within 4 minutes, Mr. Thorpe redeemed my laugh 9 times. Wow. But yeah, let's go back into the reading. Oh, that one went next. Let's get away at once. They hurried up the path to the top of the bank, but when they looked back, the far shore was shrouded in mist, and nothing could be seen. "Thank goodness you don't keep any boats on the west bank, Frodo," said Frodo. "Can horses cross the river?" "They can go 10 miles north to Brandywine Bridge, or they might swim," answered Merry. "Though I never heard of any horse swimming the Brandywine. But what have horses to do with it? I'll tell you later. Let's get indoors, and then we can talk." "All right. You and Pippin know your way, so I'll just ride on and tell Fatty Bolger that you're coming. We'll see about supper and things." "We had our supper earlier with Farmer Maggot," said Frodo. "But we could do with another." "You shall have it." "Give me that basket," said Merry, and rode ahead into the darkness. "It's fine, May. Have a lovely evening. It was nice to see you here." And again, thank you for the sticker. I really love it. It was some distance from the Brandywine to Frodo's new house at Crick Hollow. They passed Buckhill and Brandy Hall on the left, and on the outskirts of Bucklebury struck the main road of Buckland that ran south from the bridge. Half a mile northward, along this they came to a lane opening on the right. This they followed for a couple of miles as they climbed up and down into the country. At last they came to a narrow gate in a thick hedge. Nothing could be seen of the house in the dark. It stood back from the lane in the middle of a wide circle of lawn, surrounded by a belt of low trees inside the outer hedge. Frodo had chosen it because it stood in an out-of-the-way corner of the country, and there were no other dwellings close by. You could get in and out without being noticed. It had been built a long while before by the Brandybucks, for the use of guests or members of the family that wished to escape from the crowded life of Brandy Hall for a time. It was an old-fashioned countrified house, as much like a hobbit hole as possible. It was long and low, with no upper story, and it had a roof of turf, round windows, and a large round door. As they walked up the green path from the gate, no light was visible. The windows were dark and shuttered. Frodo knocked on the door, and Fatty Bolger opened it. A friendly light streamed out. They slipped in quickly and shut themselves and the light inside. They were in a wide hall, with doors on either side. In front of them, a passage ran back down the middle of the house. "Well, what do you think of it?" asked Mary, coming up the passage. "We have done our best in a short time to make it look like home. After all, Fatty and I only got here with the last cartload yesterday." Frodo looked round. It did look like home. Many of his own favorite things, or Bilbo's things, they reminded him sharply of him in the new setting, were arranged as nearly as possible as they had been at Backend. It was a pleasant, comfortable, welcoming place, and he found himself wishing that he was really coming here to settle down in a quiet retirement. It seemed unfair to have put his friends to all this trouble, and he wondered again how he was going to break the news to them that he must leave them so soon. Indeed, at once. Yet that would have to be done that very night, before they all went to bed. It's delightful, he said with an effort. I hardly feel that I have moved at all. The travelers hung up their cloaks and piled their packs on the floor. Mary led them down the passage and threw open a door at the far end. Firelight came out and a puff of steam. A bath, cried Pippin. Oh, blessed Meriadoc. Which order shall we go in, said Frodo. Eldest first, or quickest first? You'll be the last other way, Master Peregrine. Trust me to arrange things better than that, said Mary. We can't begin life at Crick Hollow with a crowl over bath. In that room there are 3 tubs and a copper full of boiling water. There are also towels, mats and soap. Get inside and be quick. Thank you, Earthling. No. Mary and Fatty went into the kitchen on the other side of the passage and busied themselves with the final preparations for a late supper. Snatches of competing songs came from the bathroom, mixed with the sounds of splashing and wallowing. The voice of Pippin was suddenly lifted up above the others in one of Bilbo's favorite bath songs. Sing hey for the bath at close of day, that washes the weary mud away. Alone is he that will not sing. Oh, hot water is a noble thing. Oh, sweet is the sound of falling rain, and the brook that leaps from hill to plain. But better than the rain or rippling streams is water hot that smokes and steams. Oh, water cold we may pour at need, down a thirsty throat, and be glad indeed. But better is beer, if drink we lack, and water hot poured down the back. Oh, water is fair that leaps on high, in a fountain white beneath the sky. But never did fountain sound so sweet, as splashing hot water with my feet. There was a terrific splash and a shout of woe from Frodo. It appeared that a lot of Pippin's bath had imitated a fountain and leaped on high. Merry went to the door. What about supper and beer in the throat? He called. Frodo came out drying his hair. There's so much water in the air that I'm coming into the kitchen to finish, he said. Logs, said Mary, looking in. The stone floor was swimming. You ought to mop all that up before you get anything to eat, Peregrine, he said. Hurry up, or we shall not wait for you. They had supper in the kitchen on a table near the fire. I suppose you three won't want mushrooms again, said Fredgar without much hope. Yes, we shall, cried Pippin. They are mine, said Frodo. Given to me by Mrs. Maggot, a queen among farmers' wives. Take your greedy hands away, and I'll serve them. Hobbits have a passion for mushrooms, surpassing even the greediest likings of big people. A fact which partly explained young Frodo's long expeditions to the renowned fields of the Marish and the wrath of the injured maggot. On this occasion there was plenty for all, even according to Hobbit standards. There were also many other things to follow, and when they had finished, even Fatty Bolgar heaved a sigh of content. They pushed back the table and drew chairs round the fire. We'll clear up later, said Mary. Now, tell me about it. I guess that you have been having adventures, which was not quite fair without me. I want a full account, and most of all, I want to know what was the matter with old Maggot, and why he spoke to me like that. He sounded almost as if he was scared, if that is possible. We have all been scared, said Pippin after a pause, in which Frodo stared at the fire and did not speak. You would have been too, if you had been chased for 2 days by black riders. And what are they? Black figures riding on black horses, answered Pippin. If Frodo won't talk, I will tell you the whole tale from the beginning. He then gave a full account of the journey from the time when they left Hobbiton. Sam gave various supporting nods and exclamations. Frodo remained silent. I should think you were making it all up, said Mary. If I had not seen that black shape on the landing stage, and heard the queer sound in Maggot's voice. What do you make of it all, Frodo? Cousin Frodo has been very close, said Pippin, but the time has come for him to open out. So far we have been given nothing more to go on than Farmer Maggot's guess, that it has something to do with old Bilbo's treasure. That was only a guess, said Frodo hastily. Maggot does not know anything. Old Maggot is a shrewd fellow, said Mary. A lot goes on behind his round face that does not come out in his talk. I've heard that he used to go into the old forest at one time, and he has the reputation of knowing a good many strange things. But you can at least tell us, Frodo, whether you think his guess is good or bad. I think, answered Frodo slowly, that it was a good guess as far as it goes. There is a connection with Bilbo's old adventures, and the riders are looking, and perhaps one out to stay searching, for him or for me. I also fear, if you want to know, that it is no joke at all, and that I'm not safe here or anywhere else. He looked round at the windows and walls, as if he was afraid that they would suddenly give way. The others looked at him in silence and exchanged meaning glares among themselves. "It's coming out in a minute," whispered Pippin to Merry. Merry nodded. "Well," said Frodo at last, sitting up and straightening his back, as if he had made a decision. "I can't keep it dark any longer. I have got something to tell you all, but I don't know how quite to begin." "I think I could help you," said Merry quietly, "by telling you some of it myself." "What do you mean?" said Frodo, looking at him anxiously. "Just this, my dear old Frodo. You are miserable because you don't know how to say goodbye. You're meant to leave the Shire, of course, but danger has come on you sooner than you expected, and now you are making up your mind to go at once, and you don't want to. We are very sorry for you." Frodo opened his mouth and shut it again. His look of surprise was so comical that they laughed. "Dear old Frodo," said Pippin, "did you really think you had thrown dust in all our eyes? You have not been nearly careful or clever enough for that. You have obviously been planning to go, and saying farewell to all your haunts all this year since April. We have constantly heard you muttering, 'Shall I ever look down into that valley again? I wonder,' and things like that. And pretending that you had come to an end of your money, and actually selling your beloved back into those Sackville Bagginses. And all of this close talk with Gandalf." "Good heavens," said Frodo. "I thought I had been both careful and clever. I don't know what Gandalf would say. Is all the Shire discussing my departure then?" "Oh no," said Merry. "Don't worry about that. The secret won't keep for long, of course, but at present it is. I think only known to us conspirators. After all, you must remember that we know you well, and are often with you. We can usually guess what you are thinking. I knew Bilbo too. To tell you the truth, I've been watching you rather closely ever since he left. I thought you would go after him sooner or later. Indeed, I'd expected you to go sooner. And lately we have been very anxious. We have been terrified that you might give us the slip and go off suddenly, all on your own, like he did. Ever since the spring, we have kept our eyes open and done a good deal of planning on our own accounts. You are not going to escape so easily." "But I must go," said Frodo. "It cannot be helped, dear friends. It is wretched for us all, but it is no use your trying to keep me. Since you have guessed so much, please help me and do not hinder me." "You do not understand," said Pippin. "You must go, and therefore we must too. Pippin and I are coming with you. Sam is an excellent fellow, and would jump down a dragon's throat to save you, if he did not trip over his own feet. But you will need more than one companion in your dangerous adventure." "My dear and most beloved hobbits," said Frodo, deeply moved. "But I could not allow it. I decided that long ago too. You speak of danger, but you do not understand. This is no treasure hunt. No there and back journey. I am flying from deadly peril into deadly peril." "Hi, Josh. Lovely to see you here. How are you?" Of course we understand, said Mary firmly. That is why we have decided to come. We know the ring is no laughing matter, but we are going to do our best to help you against the enemy. The ring, said Frodo, now completely amazed. Yes, the ring, said Mary, my dear old hobbit. You don't allow for the inquisitiveness of your friend. I have known about the existence of the ring for years, before Bilbo went away. In fact, but since he obviously regarded it as secret, I kept the knowledge in my head until we formed our conspiracy. I did not know Bilbo, of course, as well as I know you. I was too young, and he was also more careful. But he was not careful enough. If you want to know how I first found out, I will tell you. It's fine, Josh. I don't mind it being interrupted. As long as people are actually relaxing and taking it as a reset of the week. Then I'm happy. Go on, said Frodo faintly. It was the Sackville Baggins that were his downfall, as you might expect. One day, a year before the party, I happened to be walking along the road when I saw Bilbo ahead. Suddenly in the distance, S&B appeared, coming towards us. Bilbo slowed down. And then, hey presto, he vanished. I was so startled that I hardly had the wits to hide myself in a more ordinary fashion, but I got through the hedge and walked along the field inside. I was peeping through the road after the S&B had passed, was looking straight at Bilbo when he suddenly reappeared. I caught a glimpse of gold as he put something back in his trouser pocket. After that, I kept my eyes open. In fact, I confess that I spied. But you must admit that it was very intriguing. And I was only in my teens. I must be the only one in the Shire, besides you, Frodo, that's ever seen the old fellow's secret book. Hi, Jesse. Welcome in. Lovely to see you. You have read his book? Cried Frodo. Good heavens above, is nothing safe? Yeah, he's doing that to everyone today. And now you have been big booped. But Jazzy, look what I got. Yeah, isn't it adorable? It's going on my PC, so it will always be there when I'm sitting at my desk and working. I also got this. Yeah, and it has a naughty side. A little naughty side. I love it. I really love it. Yeah, so innocent, not so innocent. Yeah, I really like it. But yeah, I have waited to get it for I think it have been 4 months now. But I'm not really sure. I think it have been 4 months. But I'm so happy it got here. Not to save. Oh, fucking hell. I was almost pooping my pants. I was just about to say I was just starting reading, and then you did that, and I was like, fuck. Jesse, don't forget to take the patate. Don't forget it. Take the patate. Thank you for the help, guys. Well, that was payback. Oh. Not to save, I should say, said Mary. But I've only had a rapid glance, and that was difficult to get. He never left a book about. I wonder what became of it. I should like another look. Have you got it, Frodo? No, it was not at back end. He must have taken it away. Well, as I was saying, Mary proceeded, I kept my knowledge to myself till this spring, when things got serious. Then we formed our conspiracy. And as we were serious too, and meant business, we have not been too scrupulous. You are not a very easy nut to crack, and Gandalf is worse. But if you want to be introduced to our chief investigator, I can produce him. Where is he? Said Frodo, looking around, as if he expected a masked and sinister figure to come out of a cupboard. Step forward, Sam, said Merry. And Sam stood up with a face scarred up to the ears. Here's our collector of information. And he collected a lot, I can tell you, before he was finally caught. After which, I may say, he seemed to regard himself as on parole, and dried up. Sam, cried Frodo, feeling that amazement could go no further, and quite unable to decide whether he felt angry, amused, relieved, or merely foolish. Yes, sir, said Sam. Begging your pardon, sir, but I meant no wrong to you, Mr. Frodo, nor to Mr. Gandalf, for that matter. He has some sense, mind you, and when you say go alone, he said no. Take someone as you can trust. But it does not seem that I can trust anyone, said Frodo. Sam looked at him unhappily. It all depends on what you want, put in Merry. You can trust us to stick to you through thick and thin, to the bitter end, and you can trust us to keep any secret of yours closer than you keep it to yourself. But you cannot trust us to let you face trouble alone and go off without a word. We are your friends, Frodo. Anyway, that is. We know most of what Gandalf has told you. We know a good deal about the ring. We are horribly afraid, but we are coming with you, or following you like your accounts. And after all, sir, added Sam, you did ought to take the elf's advice. Gilder said you should take them as was willing, and you cannot deny it. I don't deny it, said Frodo, looking at Sam, who was now grinning. I don't deny it, but I'll never believe you are sleeping again, whether you snore or not. I shall kick you hard to make sure. You are a set of deceitful scoundrels, he said, turning to the others. But bless you, he laughed, getting up and waving his arm. I give in. I will take Gilder's advice. If the danger were not so dark, I should dance for joy. Even so, I cannot help but feeling happy, happier than I felt for a long time. I had dreaded this evening. Good. That's settled. 3 cheers for Captain Frodo and company, they shouted, and they danced round him. Merry and Pippin began a song, which they had apparently got ready for the occasion. It was made on the model of a dwarf song that started Bilbo on his adventure long ago, and went on the same tune. Farewell to the heart and hall, through wind may blow and rain may fall. You must away ere break of day, far o'er wood and mountain tall, to Rivendell where elves yet dwell, in glades beneath the misty fell, through moor and waste we ride in haste, and whither then we cannot tell. With foes ahead, behind us dread, beneath the sky shall be our bed, until at last our toil be past, our journey done, our errand sped. We must away, we ride before the break of day. Very good, said Frodo, but in that case, there are a lot of things to do before we go to bed. Under a roof, for tonight at any rate. Oh, that was poetry, said Pippin. Do you really mean to start before the break of day? I don't know, answered Frodo. I fear those black riders, and I'm sure it is unsafe to stay in one place long, especially in a place to which is known I was going. Also, Gilder advised me not to wait. But I should very much like to see Gandalf. I could see that even Gilder was disturbed when he heard that Gandalf had never appeared. It really depends on two things. How soon could the riders get to Bucklebury? And how soon could we get off? It will take a good deal of preparation. The answer to the second question, said Mary, is that we could get off in an hour. I have prepared practically everything. There are 5 ponies in a stable across the fields. Stores and tackle are all packed, except for a few extra clothes and the perishable food. It seems to have been a very efficient conspiracy, said Frodo. But what about the Black Riders? Would it be safe to wait one day for Gandalf? That all depends what you think the riders would do if they found you here, answered Mary. They could have reached here by now, of course, if they were not stopped at the north gate, where the hedge ran down to the river bank, just this side of the bridge. The gate guards would not let them through by night, though they might break through. Even in the daylight, they would try to keep them out, I think. At any rate, until they got a message through to the masters of the hall. For they would not like the look of the riders, and would certainly be frightened by them. But of course, Buckland cannot resist a determined attack for long. And it is possible that in the morning even a black rider that rode up and asked for Mr. Baggins would be let through. It is pretty generally known that you are coming back to live at Crick Hollow. Frodo sat for a while in thought. I have made up my mind, he said finally. I am starting tomorrow, as soon as it is light. But I am not going by road. It will be safer to wait here than that. If I go through the north gate, my departure for Buckland will be known at once. Instead of being secret for several days at least, as it might be. And what is more, the bridge and the east road near the borders will certainly be watched, whether any rider gets into Buckland or not. We don't know how many there are, but there are at least 2 and possibly more. The only thing to do is to go off in a quite unexpected direction. But that can only mean going into the old forest, said Frederick, horrified. You can't be thinking of doing that. It is quite as dangerous as Black Riders. Not quite, said Mary. It sounds very desperate, but I believe Frodo is right. It is the only way of getting off without being followed at once. With luck, we might get a considerable start. But you won't have any luck in the old forest, objected Fredgar. No one ever has luck in there. You'll get lost. People don't go in there. Oh yes, they do, said Mary. The Brandybucks go in occasionally when the fit takes them. We have a private entrance. Frodo went in once, long ago. I have been in several times. usually in daylight, of course, when the trees are sleepy and fairly quiet. Sorry, I just got a text. Well, do as you think best, said Fredegar. I am more afraid of the old forest than of anything I know about. The stories about it are a nightmare, but my vote hardly counts, as I am not going on the journey. Still, I am very glad someone is stopping behind, who can tell Gandalf what you have done, when he turns up, and I am sure he will before long. Fond as he was of Frodo, Fatty Bolger had no desire to leave the Shire, nor to see what lay outside it. His family came from the East Farthing, from Butchford in Bridgefields, in fact. But he had never been over the Brandywine Bridge. His task, according to the original plans of the conspirators, was to stay behind and deal with the inquisitive folk, and to keep up as long as possible the pretense that Mr. Baggins was still living at Crick Hollow. He had even brought along some old clothes of Frodo's to help him in playing the part. The little thought how dangerous that part might prove. Excellent, said Frodo. When he understood the plan, we could not have left any messages behind for Gandalf otherwise. I don't know whether these riders can read or not, of course, but I should not have dared to risk a written message, in case they got in and searched the house. But if Fatty is willing to hold the fort, and I can be sure of Gandalf's knowing the way we have gone, that decides me. I'm going into the old forest first thing tomorrow. Well, that's that, said Pippin. On the whole, I would rather have our job than Fatty's, waiting here till Black Riders come. You wait till you are well inside the forest, said Fredegar. You'll wish you were back here with me before this time tomorrow. It's no good arguing more about it anymore, said Merry. We have still got to tidy up and put the finishing touches to the packing before we get to bed. I shall call you all before the break of day. When at least he had got to bed. Frodo could not sleep for some time. His leg ached. He was glad that he was riding in the morning. Eventually he fell into a vague dream, in which he seemed to be looking out of a high window over a dark sea of tangled trees. Down below, among the roots, there was the sound of creatures crawling and snuffling. He felt sure they would smell him out sooner or later. Then he heard a noise in the distance. At first he thought it was the great wind coming over the leaves of the forest. Then he knew it was not the leaves, but the sound of the sea far off, a sound he had never heard in waking life, though it had often troubled his dreams. Suddenly he found he was out in the open. There were no trees at all, after all. He was on a dark heath, and there was a strange salt smell in the air. Looking up, he saw before him a tall white tower, standing alone on a high ridge. A great desire came over him to climb the tower and see the sea. He started to struggle up the ridge towards the tower, but suddenly a light came in the sky, and the voice and noise of thunder. Oh, and that was chapter 5. And we will continue with chapter 6 in a little moment. I just need to stretch and hydrate a little bit. Hi, Lothriel. Hi. Thank you for the hydrate. Yeah, you people really like that laugh, don't you? How are you today, Lothriel? It's nice to see you in here. Oh. So let's see how many pages the next chapter is. Okay, it's only 17 pages long. And I've just read the same in an hour. So I actually think we will do this next chapter as well today. Depending on how it goes, of course. Just remind me of the 150 time again to the as usual thing. Last week we barely got 4 pages. You got a full chapter. Yeah, but you got 17 pages last week. Yeah, 3 weeks ago we got nothing done. Oh Lord. You guys were going to war at that point. But it was fun. It was actually fun.
Can you not do that? You'll blunt them. Ooh, do you hear that, lads? He says we'll blunt the knives. The knives bend before it smashes bottles and burn the corks. Chip the glasses are back and plates. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. Duck them, duck, turn them out. Get the rubbers and fetch them out. For the good and petrified. That's the line from every door. Got to touch the boiling bowl. Got to touch the donkey bowl. When you finish the thing cold. Start to line the off the road. That's what Bilbo Baggins is.
Here's here.
Yeah, it was nice. I liked it. Hmm. But I think we should get on with reading and actually try to do the next chapter today as well. Frodo, chapter 6, The Old Forest. Frodo woke suddenly. It was still dark in the room. Merry was standing there with a candle in one hand and banging on the door with the other. All right, what is it? Said Frodo, still shaking and bewildered. What is it? Cried Merry. It's time to get up. It is 4:30 and very foggy. Come on, Sam is already getting breakfast ready. Even Pippin is up. I'm just going to saddle the ponies and fetch the one that is to be the baggage carrier. Wake that sluggard fatty. At least he must get up and see us off. Soon after 6 o'clock, the 5 hobbits were ready to start. Fatty Bolger was still yawning. They stole quietly out of the house. Merry went in front leading a laden pony, and took his way along a path that went through a spinney behind the house, and then cut across several fields. The leaves of trees were glistening, and every twig was dripping. The grass was grey with cold dew. Everything was still, and faraway noises seemed near and clear. Fowls chattering in the yard, someone closing a door in a distant house. In the shed they found the ponies, sturdy little beasts of the kind loved by hobbits. Not speedy, but good for a long day's work. They mounted, and soon they were riding off into the mist, which seemed to open reluctantly before them and close forbiddingly behind them. After riding for about an hour, slowly and without talking, they saw the hedge looming suddenly ahead. It was tall and netted over with silver cobwebs. How are we going to get through this? Asked Fredegar. Follow me, said Merry, and you will see. He turned to the left along the hedge, and soon they came to a point where it bent inwards, running along the lip of a hollow. A cutting had been made at some distance from the hedge, and went sloping gently down into the ground. It had walls of brick at the sides, which rose steadily until suddenly they arched over and formed a tunnel that dived deep under the hedge and came out in the hollow on the other side. Here Fatty Boulder halted. Goodbye, Frodo, he said. I wish you were not going into the forest. I only hope you will not need rescuing before the day is out. But good luck to you, today and every day. If there are no worse things ahead than the old forest, I shall be lucky, said Frodo. Tell Gandalf to hurry along the east road. We shall soon be back on it, and going as fast as we can. Goodbye, they cried, and rode down the slope and disappeared from Fredegar's sight into the tunnel. It was dark and damp. At the far end it was closed by a gate of thick-set iron bars. Merry got down and unlocked the gate, and when they had all passed through, he plunged it to again. It shut with a clang, and the lock clicked. The sound was ominous. There, said Merry. You have left the Shire and are now outside. and on the edge of the old forest. Are the stories about it true? Asked Pippin. I don't know what stories you mean, Mary answered. If you mean the old boogie stories Fatty's nurses used to tell him about goblins and wolves and things of that sort, I should say no. At any rate, I don't believe them. But the forest is queer. Everything in it is very much more alive, more aware of what's going on, so to speak, than things are in the Shire. And the trees do not like strangers. They watch you. They are usually content merely to watch you, as long as daylight lasts, and don't do much. Occasionally, the most unfriendly ones may drop a branch, or stick out a root, or grasp at you with a long trailer. But at night, things can be most alarming, or so I am told. I've only once or twice been in here after dark, and only near the hedge. I thought all the trees were whispering to each other, passing news and plots along in an unintelligible language, and the branches swayed and groped without any wind. They do say the trees do actually move, and can surround strangers and hem them in. In fact, long ago they attacked the hedge. They came and planted themselves right by it, leaned over it, but the hobbits came and cut down hundreds of trees, and made a great bonfire in the forest, and burnt all the ground in a long strip east of the hedge. After that, the trees gave up the attack, but they became very unfriendly. There is still a wide bare space not far inside where the bonfire was made. Is it only the trees that are dangerous? Asked Pippin. There are various queer things living deep in the forest. And on the far side, said Mary, or at least I've heard so. But I've never seen any of them. But something makes paths. Whenever one comes inside one finds open tracks, but they seem to shift and change from time to time, in a queer fashion. Not far from this tunnel there is, or was for a long time, the beginning of quite a broad path leading to the bonfire glade, and then one on more or less in our direction, east or a little north. That is the path I am going to try and find. The hobbits now left the tunnel gate and rode across the wide hollow. On the far side was a faint path leading up on the floor of the forest, 100 yards or more beyond the hedge, but it vanished as soon as it brought them under the trees. Looking back, they could see the dark line of the hedge through the stems of the trees that were already thick about them. Looking ahead, they could see only tree trunks of innumerable sizes and shapes. Straight or bent, twisted, leaning, squat or slender, smooth or gnarled and branched, and all the stems green or grey with moss and slimy shaggy growths. Mary alone seemed fairly cheerful. You had better lead on and find that path, Frodo said to him. Don't let us lose one another, and forget which way the hedge lies. They picked away among the trees, and the ponies plodded along, carefully avoiding the many writhing and interlacing roots. There was no undergrowth. The ground was rising steadily, and as they went forward, it seemed that the trees became taller, darker, and thicker. There was no sound except an occasional drip of moisture falling through the still leaves. For the moment there was no whispering or movement among the branches, but they all got an uncomfortable feeling that they were being watched with disapproval, deepening to dislike and even enmity. The feeling steadily grew until they found themselves looking up quickly and glancing back over their shoulders as they expected a sudden blow. There was not as yet any signs of a path, and the trees seemed constantly to bar their way. Pippin suddenly felt that he could not bear it any longer, and without further warning he let out a shout. "Oi, oi!" he cried. "I am not going to do anything. Just let me pass through, will you?" The other hollered shortly, but the cry fell as if muffled by a heavy curtain. There was no echo or answer through this wood seemed to become more crowded and more watchful than before. "I should not shout if I were you," said Mary. "It does more harm than good." Frodo began to wonder if it was possible to find a way through, and if he had been on the right to make the others come into this abominable wood. Mary was looking from side to side, and seemed already uncertain which way to go. Pippin noticed it. "It has not taken you long to lose us," he said. But at that moment, Mary gave a whistle of relief and pointed ahead. Well, he said. "These trees do shift. There is the bonfire glade in front of us. Or I hope so. But the path to it seems to have moved away." The light grew clearer as they went forward. Suddenly they came out of the trees and found themselves in a wide circular space. There was sky above them, blue and clear. To their surprise, for down under the forest roof, they had not been able to see the rising morning and the lifting of the mist. The sun was not, however, high enough to yet shine down into the clearing, though its light was on the treetops. The leaves were all thicker and greener about the edges of the glade, enclosing it with an almost solid wall. No tree grew there, only rough grass and many tall plants, stalky and faded hemlocks and wood parsley, fireweed seeding into fluffy ashes, and rampant nettles and thistles. A dreary place, but it seemed a charming and cheerful garden after the close forest. The hobbits felt encouraged and looked up hopefully at the broadening daylight in the sky. At the far side of the glade there was a break in the wall of trees, and a clear path beyond it. They could see it running on into the woods, wide in place and open above, though every now and again the trees drew in and overshadowed it with their dark boughs. Up this path they rode. They were still climbing gently, but they now went much quicker, and with better heart, for it seemed to them that the forest had relented, and was going to let them pass unhindered after all. But after a while the air began to get hot and stuffy. The trees drew close again on either side, and they could no longer see far ahead. Now stronger than ever, they felt again the ill will of the wood pressing on them. So silent was it that the fall of their ponies' hooves, rustling on dead leaves, and occasionally stumbling on hiding roots, seemed to thud in their ears. Frodo tried to sing a song to encourage them, but his voice sank to a murmur. "Oh, wanderers in the shadow's land, despair not, for though dark they stand, all woods there be must end at last. And see the open sun go past, the setting sun, the rising sun, the day's end or the day's begun. For east or west all woods must fail." Fail even as he said the word, his voice faded into silence. The air seemed heavy, and the making of words wearisome. Just behind them, a large branch fell from the old overhanging. From an old overhanging tree, with a crash into the path. The tree seemed to close in before them. "They do not like all that about ending and failing," said Mary. "I should not sing any more at present. Wait till we do get to the edge, and then we'll return and give them a rousing chorus." He spoke cheerfully, and if he felt any great anxiety, he did not show it. The others did not answer. They were depressed. A heavy weight was settling steadily on Frodo's heart, and he regretted now with every step forward that he had ever thought of challenging the menace of the trees. He was indeed just about to stop and propose going back, if that was still possible, when things took a new turn. The path stopped climbing and became for a while nearly level. The dark trees drew aside, and ahead they could see a path going almost straight forward. Before them, but some distance off, there stood a green hilltop, treeless, rising like a bald head out of an encircling wood. The path seemed to be making directly for it. They now hurried forward again, delighted with the thought of climbing out for a while above the roofs of the forest. The path dipped and then again began to climb upwards, leading them at last to the foot of the steep hillside. There it left the trees and faded into the turf. The wood stood all around the hill like thick hair that ended sharply in a circle, round as a shaving crown. The hobbits led their ponies up, winding round and round until they reached the top. There they stood and gazed about them. The air was gleaming and sunlit, but hazy, and they could not see any great distance. Near at hand, the mist was now almost gone, though here and there it lay in hollows of the wood. And to the south of them, out of the deep fold, cutting right across the forest, the fog still rose like steam or wisps of white smoke. "That," said Merrin, pointing with his hand, "that is the line of the Withy-Windle. It comes down out of the downs and flows southwest through the midst of the forest to join the Brandywine below Hazent. We don't want to go that way. The Withy-Windle Valley is said to be the queerest part of the whole wood, the center from which all the queerness comes, as it were." The others looked in that direction Mary pointed out, but they could see little but mist over the damp and deep-cut valley, and beyond it, the southern half of the forest faded from view. The sun on the hilltop was now getting hot. It must have been about 11 o'clock, but the autumn haze still prevented them from seeing much in other directions. In the west, they could not make out either the line of the hedge or the valley of the Brandywine beyond it. Northward, where they looked most hopefully, they could see nothing that might be the line of the Great East Road, for which they were making. They were on an island in a sea of trees, and the horizon was veiled. On the southeastern side of the ground fell very steeply, as if the slopes of the hill were continued far down under the trees, like island shores that really are the sides of a mountain rising out of the deep waters. They sat on the green edge and looked out over the woods below them, while they ate their midday meal. As the sun rose and past noon, they glimpsed far off in the east the grey-green lines of the downs that lay beyond the old forest on that side. That cheered them greatly, for it was good to see a sight of anything beyond the wood's borders, though they did not mean to go that way if they could help it. The Barrow Downs had a sinister reputation in Hobbit legend as the forest itself. At length they made up their minds to go on again. The path that had brought them to the hill reappeared on the northward side, but they had not followed it far before they became aware that it was bending steadily to the right. Soon it began to descend rapidly, and they guessed it must actually be heading towards the Withywindle Valley. Not at all the direct direction they wished to take. After some discussion, they decided to leave this misleading path and strike northward. For although they had not been able to see it from the hilltop, the road must lie that way, and it could not be many miles off. Also northward, and to the left of the path, the land seemed to be drier and more open. Climbing up to the slopes, where the trees were thinner, and pines and firs replaced the oaks and ashes and other strange and nameless trees of the denser wood. At first, their choice seemed to be good. They got along at a fair speed, though whenever they got a glimpse of the sun in an open glade, they seemed unaccountably to have veered eastwards. But after a time, the trees began to close in again, just where they had appeared from a distance to be thinner and less tangled. Then deep folds in the ground were discovered unexpectedly, like the ruts of a great giant wheels, or wide mouths, or sunken roads long disused and choked with brambles. These lay usually right across their line of march, and could only be crossed by scrambling down and out again, which was troublesome and difficult with their ponies. Each time they climbed down, they found the hollow filled with thick bushes and matted undergrowth, which somehow would not yield to the left, but only gave way when they turned to the right, and they had to go some distance along the bottom before they could find a way up the further bank. Each time they clambered out, the stream seemed deeper and darker, and always to the left and upwards. It was most difficult to find a way, and they were forced to the right and downwards. After an hour or two, they had lost all clear sense of direction, though they knew well enough that they had long ceased to go northward at all. They were being headed off and were simply following a course chosen for them, eastward and southwards, into the heart of the forest and not out of it. The afternoon was wearing away when they scrambled and stumbled into a fold that was wider and deeper than any they have yet met. It was so steep and overhung that it proved impossible to climb out of again, either forwards or backwards, without leaving their ponies or their baggage behind. All they could do was to follow the fold downwards. The ground grew soft, and in places boggy. Spring appeared in the banks, and soon they found themselves following a brook that trickled and babbled through a weedy bed. Then the ground began to fall rapidly, and the brook growing strong and noisy, flowed and leapy, drifted downhill. They were in a deep, dim-lit gully overarched by trees high above them. After stumbling along for some way along the stream, they came quite suddenly out of the gloom. As if through a gate, they saw the sunlight before them. Coming to the opening, they found that they had made their way down through a cleft in a high steep bank, almost a cliff. At its feet was a wide space of grass and reeds, and in the distance could be glimpsed another bank almost as steep. A golden afternoon of late sunshine lay warm and drowsy upon the hidden land between. In the midst of it, there were wound lazy of a dark river of brown water, bordered with ancient willows, arched over with willows, blocked with fallen willows, and fleckled with thousands of faded willow leaves. The air was thick with them, fluttering yellow from the branches, for there was a warm and gentle breeze blowing softly in the valley, and the reeds were rustling, and the willow boards were cracking. Well, now I have at least some notion of where we are, said Mary. We have come almost in the opposite direction to which we intended. This is the river Withywindle. I will go on and explore. 2 seconds. Yeah. He passed out in the sunshine and disappeared into the long grasses. After a while he reappeared and reported that there was fairly solid ground between the cliff foot and the river. In some places, firm turf went down to the water's edge. What's more, he said, there seems to be something like a footpath winding along the side of the river. If we turn left and follow it, we shall be bound to come out on the east side of the forest eventually. I dare say, said Pippin. That is, if the track goes on so far, as it does not simply lead us into a bog and leave us there. Who made the track, do you suppose, and why? I am sure it was not for our benefit. I'm getting very suspicious of this forest and everything in it. And I begin to believe all the stories about it. And have you any idea how far eastward we should have to go? No, said Mary, I haven't. I don't know in the least how far down the Witherwindle we are, or who could possibly come here often enough to make a path along it. But there is no other way out that I can see or think of. Thank you, Earthling. Yeah, I think I will stop around here. There being nothing else for it, they filed out, and Mary led them to the path that he had discovered. Everywhere the reeds and grasses were lush and tall, in places far above their heads, but once found, the path was easy to follow, as it turned and twisted, picking out the sonder ground among the bogs and pools. Here and there it passed over the rills, running down gullies into the Witherwindle, out of the tree of the higher forest land, and at these points there were tree trunks and bundles of brushwood laid carefully across. And that will be all for today. So I think we should find someone to raid. Yeah, raid I say. I think I have found the person. So this is a person I have talked a lot with in other chats. And in my opinion, they seem very nice. So yeah, we will go for that person, and we have the other one here. Yeah. So the one we will go to is called Darkest. And I hope you all will join in, as he is a very nice person in my opinion. And I hope you will all have a nice week until we see each other next Sunday. So have a lovely week and stay safe. Bye bye, friends.